Hello students, welcome to Scholars University Secondary School. This is literature in English class. So we are continuing with our text, our drama text, Look Back in Anger by John Osborne. So this is the summary. We're going to be taking the summary now, so please pay rapt attention. And Look Back in Anger begins in the attic flat apartment of Jimmy Porter and Alison Porter. The settings is mid-1950s small town England. Jimmy and Alison share the apartment with Cliff Lewis, a young working class man who is best friends with Jimmy. Cliff and Jimmy both come from a working class background, though Jimmy has had more education than Cliff. They are in business together, running a sweet stall. Alison comes from a more prominent family, and it is clear from the beginning that Jimmy resents this fact. The first act opens on a Sunday in April. Jimmy and Cliff are reading the Sunday papers while Alison is ironing in a corner of the room. Jimmy is a hot-tempered young man, and he begins to try and provoke both Cliff and Alison. He is antagonistic towards Cliff's working class background and makes fun of him for his low intelligence. Cliff is good-natured and takes the antagonism. Jimmy attempts to provoke his wife, Alison, by making fun of her family and her well-heeled life before she married him. Jimmy also seems to display a nostalgia for England's powerful past. He notes that the world has entered a dreary American age, a fact he begrudgingly accepts. Alison tires of Jimmy's rant and begs for peace. This makes Jimmy more favored in his insults. Cliff attempts to keep peace between the two, and this leads to a playful scuffle between the two. Their wrestling ends up running into Alison, causing her to fall down. Jimmy is sorry for the incident, but Alison makes him leave the room. After Jimmy leaves, Alison confides to Cliff that she is pregnant with Jimmy's child, though she has not yet told Jimmy. Cliff advises her to tell him, but when Cliff goes out and Jimmy re-enters the room, the two instead fall into an intimate game. Jimmy impersonates a stuffed bear and Alison impersonates a toy squirrel. Cliff returns to tell Alison that her old friend, Eleanor Charles, has called her on the phone. Alison leaves to take the call and returns with the news that Eleanor is coming to stay for a visit. Jimmy does not like Eleanor and goes into a rage in which he wishes that Alison would suffer in order to know what it means to be a real person. He curses her and wishes that she could have a child only to watch it die. 2 weeks later, Eleanor has arrived and Alison discusses her relationship with Jimmy. She tells of how they met and how, in their younger days, they used to crash parties with their friend, Herb Turner. Jimmy maintains an affection for Herb's mother, though his relationship with Herb was strained when Herb left to travel the world and Jimmy stayed to be with Alison. Jimmy seems to regret that he could not leave, but is also angry at Herb for abandoning his mother. Eleanor inquires about Alison's affectionate relationship with Cliff, and Alison tells her that they are strictly friends. Eleanor inquires about Alison's affectionate relationship with Cliff, and Alison tells her that they are strictly friends. Cliff and Jimmy return to the flat, and Eleanor tells them that she and Alison are leaving for church. Jimmy goes into an anti-religious rant and ends up insulting Alison's family once again. Eleanor becomes angry and Jimmy dares her to slap him on the face. warning her that he will slap her back. He tells her of how he watched his father die as a young man. His father had been injured fighting in the Spanish Civil War and had returned to England only to die shortly after. A phone call comes in for Jimmy and he leaves the room. Elena tells Allison that she has called Allison's father to come get her and take her away from this abusive home. Allison relents and says that she will go when her father picks her up the next day. When Jimmy returns, he tells Allison that Mrs. Turner, Huck's mother, has become sick and is going to die. Jimmy decides to visit her and he demands that Allison make a choice of whether to go with Elena or with him. Allison picks up her things and leaves for church, and Jimmy collapses on the bed, heartbroken by his wife's decision. The next evening, Allison is packing and talking with her father, Colonel Redfern. The colonel is a soft-spoken man who realizes that he does not quite understand the love that exists between Jimmy and Allison. He admits that the action of him and his wife are partly to blame for the split. The colonel was an officer in the British military and served in India, and he is nostalgic for his time there. He considers his service to be some of the best years of his life. Allison observes that her father is hurt because the present is not the past, and that Jimmy is hurt because he feels the present is only the past. Allison begins to pack her toys curve, but then she decides not to do so. Elena and Cliff soon enter the scene. Allison leaves a letter for Jimmy, explaining why she has left, and she gives it to Cliff. After Allison leaves, Cliff becomes angry and gives the letter to Elena, blaming her for the situation. Jimmy returns, bewildered that he was almost hit by Colonel Redfern's car and that Cliff pretended not to see him when he was walking by on the street. He reads Allison's letter and becomes very angry. Elena tells him that Allison is pregnant, but Jimmy tells her that he does not care. He insults Elena and she slaps him, then passionately kisses him. Several months pass and the third act opens with Jimmy and Cliff once again reading the Sunday papers while Elena stands in the corner ironing. Jimmy and Cliff engage in their angry banter, and Elena's religious tendencies have taken the brunt of Jimmy's punishment. Jimmy and Cliff perform scenes from musicals and comedy shows, but when Elena leaves, Cliff notes that things do not feel the same with her here. Cliff then tells Jimmy that he wants to move out of the apartment. Jimmy takes the news calmly and tells him that he has been a loyal friend and is worth more than any woman. When Elena returns, the three plan to go out. Allison suddenly enters. Allison and Elena talk while Jimmy leaves the room. He begins to loudly play his trumpet. Allison has lost her baby and looks sick. Elena tells Allison that she should be angry with her for what she has done, but Allison is only grieved by the loss of her baby. Elena is driven to distraction by Jimmy's trumpet playing and demands that he come into the room. When he comes back in, he laments the fact that Allison has lost the baby, but shrugs it off. Elena then tells Jimmy and Allison that her sense of morality, right and wrong, has not diminished, and that she knows she must leave. Allison attempts to persuade her to stay, telling her that Jimmy will be alone if she leaves. When Elena leaves, he attempts to once again become angry, but Allison tells him that she has now gone through the emotional and physical suffering that he has always wanted her to feel. He realizes that she has suffered greatly. He has become like him and become softer and tenderer towards her. The play ends with Jimmy and Allison embracing, once again playing the imaginary game of bear and squirrel. Poor squirrel, he says to Allison, and she responds, poor bears. Poor bears. Now that marks the end of the play, titled they look back in anger. That's the summary. So take your time to go through the summary for proper understanding. And I believe that you must have read the text, personally, since I had dropped the PDF file containing the text, the 3 acts now in the group. So take your time to read through for proper understanding of the text. Now, your assignment: write the summary of the play, not more than 2 pages. So sorry for that, not more than 2 pages, not more than 2 pages. So sorry for this. Not more than 2 pages. Not more than 2 pages. So write a summary of the play, not more than 2 pages. Not more than 2 pages. Now, number 2, who is Elena? Who is Elena? Of what importance is her role in the play? 3, explain briefly the relationship between Allison's father and Jimmy. What type of drama is a play? Give reasons for your answer. So that marks the end of the summary. And thank you for paying rapt attention. Follow us on Twitter using the address at scholars_author, YouTube Scholars Universal School, website www.scholarsuniversalschool.com, and call the numbers on the screen. Thank you very much.